past 2 years, I've been at Einstein Medical School, which did not have a youth department, and it was very small. I'm back in the HIR now, but for the past 2 years, it didn't have any programming, so I started a Tot Shabbat there. And the props and things that I brought with me today, and the program that I'm going to present to you, was really developed at Einstein, and so even though it started in Riverdale, this became what it is through the Einstein community and through the help of the parents there. This program now, I think over 12 shuls have called me, and I've helped them set up Tot Shabbats in their shul. So we now have and they've helped other people. So the program is growing and it works. Let me show you what I have from Einstein. So in Einstein, I was very adamant, since they didn't have a youth director, that the parents had to learn how to lead it, because it was not sustainable for me to lead it or for them to hire somebody if there's so much turnover. It's a medical school, so they needed to be able to learn how to lead it themselves. And they set up a rotation, and the parents led it every single week. And I'll talk a little bit more about how you can have parents leading it and how that works. This is my Tot Shabbat prop box. There are 2 or 3 of them at Einstein. I didn't bring all of them, I brought one. It's clearly labeled Tot Shabbat. It has handles, and that's important because the stuff doesn't get ruined. In here, no, just give me a minute, I'll come back to the prop box. So I'll just talk for a second about the parents leading it. So in order to have a successful program, what you need to do if you're going to have parents leading it, I do believe this, is you need to have it set up at the beginning of the year. Otherwise, what ends up happening is every single week, you're calling up a parent and saying, can you lead it? Can you lead it? You send out a mass email. Anybody want to lead Tot Shabbat this week? It's terrible for the program. It sends out this terrible message of inconsistency, that the program isn't serious, that you don't have yourself together. You want to have it set up in the beginning of the year. And if you spend 2 weeks every day calling, getting parents, saying, I know you don't want to sign up so early, I know it's too soon, it's tentative, don't worry, if you need to back out, I'll find a replacement, but you beg, you pressure them into signing up for 1 Shabbat a year, because really if every parent signed up for 1 or 2 Shabbatot a year, you're pretty much covered, or at least in Einstein, which had maybe 100-member families, that was enough. And so you get that set up in advance, and then you make sure that the training of these parents is successful. And so in order to ensure that parents can be trained, but I didn't have to expend a lot of energy on that, I created a booklet. And this is the Einstein Tot Shabbat booklet. Very, very detailed, exactly how to run this program. This booklet is laminated. In the booklet is a how-to. It's a list of the curriculum. It explains how to run the curriculum. It's a list of all the props in the box, what they should be used for, stories that the parents could tell, and I also have every single song that's sung is on an audio file. So before a parent leaves, if they're signed up to lead 2 weeks in advance, I'll send them an email. It's an automatic email. I can set it up through Gmail. It just automatically sends to them with a zip file of every single song on how to run the Tot Shabbat, a big overview telling them how to set up the room. They have everything they need on that audio file. How are we doing time?
You're good. You have like 10. 11 minutes.
Okay. Everything's set up on that audio file, so they can listen to the audio file. They've got this reminder 2 weeks in advance, and then 1 week later, they get another reminder. This is also in the box, so everybody's gotten this booklet emailed to them, plus it's on the box, so Shabbat morning, they take it out, they know exactly what they need to do. The goals of Tot Shabbat, in my eyes and in the eyes of the parents, is to create a love of shul, tefillah, and a sense of community for these children. So we want to make tefillah fun and exciting and interactive for toddlers. And I thought it couldn't be done, because how can a 2-year-old sit through it? And they can. And the question might be, how long can a 2-year-old sit? The answer is pretty much as long as you're able to engage them, which means if you're really good at it, they can sit for over an hour. I've had 52-year-olds sitting there loving the program because it's a fabulous program and the teacher's amazing. You don't want to stand here and talk to them or say, Ma tovu. You know, that doesn't work. But if you have the kids up and out of their chairs and then back into their chairs, and you have props and you have ways to do it that's exciting, and I'll go through that right now, then that can work. So to get to specifics, here's what we do. We have a Siddur. This was made by a parent who spent a ton of time creating the Siddur. It has pictures of the children in the group in it. So when the children come to Hot Shabbat, and they see the Siddur, they get so excited because it's them, or it's their friend who's in this picture. And when you turn the page, they already know what tefillah you're up to because they see the same exact picture every week. So you guys could kind of flip through this as you want. Afterwards, I guess I'm not going to waste time going through this, but like you can see for Moda'ani, there's a picture of a sun, and the kids know when we're talking about Moda'ani, here it is. So this is the siddur, and please feel free to go through it afterwards. I'm just going to put it down here. Here is the curriculum. We start with a song called Shalom Everybody, where we go through every child's name, and it's a very like folk song type of beat, very upbeat. Parents are encouraged to sing with their children. If just the leader is singing, it's kind of flat, but if everybody in the room is singing, the kids are engaged, the parents are engaged, it's exciting. I have little chairs set up in a semicircle, a leader in front, and big chairs for the parents behind the kids so that they're not distracting the kids, but they're there to help if the kid tries to get up or disturb. So we start with Shalom Everybody. We'll go on to something like Yom Rishon Avodah, and we have little blow-up hammers that each kid gets to take a blow-up hammer and do Yom Rishon Avodah. We'll do something with Matovu. We'll do two things. So I don't have it here, but we've got a donkey on a stick. And we take our donkey on our stick and we tell the story of King Balak and Bilam. And I will literally take the donkey, hop on, and say, once upon a time there was a king named Balak, and King Balak sent messengers to Bilam. And the messengers got on the donkey and they went, giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, and they knocked on Bilam's door. And you tell the story like that with a little more animation, and you're running up to the kids, and you're giddy-upping all around the room. The kids are ecstatic. They're sitting there enthralled, and you're teaching them the story of Matovu. But instead of just telling them to say Matovu, and they're repeating words that don't mean anything to them, suddenly they have an understanding of what they're saying. And people are always saying, kids can't understand tefillah. Yes, they can. I have 2-year-olds coming up to me and telling me the story of Matovu, and I feel good knowing that these young children actually understand what they're saying, and will end the Matovu story when Bilam gets up there and says Matovu, and he's looking out over the tents of Bnei Yisrael, and we say, do you guys want to make your own tent? And they go, yes! And all the parents will stand up, and we'll take out this talit. The parents hold the talit, all the kids gather underneath the talit, and we use the talit as a tent, and when we say the words, Ohalacha Yaakov, we'll wave the tent up and down. And after a 2-year-old having the breeze of the talit blowing on you, getting up and being under this talit tent, these are visual experiences, they're awakening the senses, they're so important to toddlers in terms of programming. You can't have them sitting in a chair, but if they're up there under the tent, they're with you and you haven't lost them. We will do Netilat Yadayim with a bowl and a cup and a Netilat Yadayim towel. I actually prefer paper towels because they're more sanitary, but this is what we'll use. Every kid gets a chance to wash their hands. You go through brachot, but instead of just saying brachot, you're doing brachot with 2-year-olds. Why are you doing brachot with 2-year-olds? You make the brachot interactive and exciting. So you start maybe with the bracha, Pokeach Ibrim, and you'll say to the children, what's the first thing you do in the morning when you wake up? And the children will all say, brush your teeth, or something like that. Or the really smart children will say, Moda'ani, right? Because that's what they think you want to hear. That's what they've been trained to say. And you say, oh, okay, I brush my teeth. And you keep your eyes closed the whole time. I brush my teeth. Oh, I say Moda'ani. I eat breakfast. Oh, you come to shul. And you act out the whole thing, all the suggestions they're saying with your eyes closed. And of course, you start to bump into them. And finally, and you'll say, did I forget to do something? And finally, some child will say, open your eyes. And then you open your eyes. And they love this because you're bumping into them. And you say, that's right. We need to thank Hashem for helping us to open our eyes. Let's say the bracha Pokeach Ibrim. Can you say it with your eyes closed? And when we say the words Pokeach Ibrim, everyone will open their einayim. So you'll do the bracha like that. You do Zokev Kafu from everyone crouches down and jumps up and stretches. You do Ozer Yisrael B'Gvura and you make big muscles. The point is that everything, if we think about why we're saying it instead of just teaching kids to say words, if we think about what it means, we can make it something that's exciting for children. And even 2-year-olds will love this. Then other things we have in here, every single child gets a Torah You might think that's expensive, and it's a little bit expensive, but even though these go for like $12 minimum online to $24, if you sign on through the Chabad website, they have a shluchim website, these beautiful Torahs are $2.50 a piece. I know. If you know anything about stuffed Torahs, that's a steal. So you can get one for every child. They take a Torah, they get up, they dance around with the Torah, we sing songs dancing around with the Torah, and you do this all in the place of where the shul would be taking out a Torah. Maybe 1 week, we don't do stuffed Torahs, and I get a real Sefer Torah, and I bring it in, and I open it up, and then while it's open, I tell the story of the Parsha, but not separately, with this Torah, so that the kids understand that when we talk about Parsha, it's coming from this Torah. They can touch the handle, they can kiss the velvet, they can feel it, they can look, they can pick up a yad. It's so interactive and it's so exciting. And then next week when we pull out our stuffed Torahs, they know what we're talking about. It's not just a doll. I'll skip ahead because I think I'm running out of time. Towards the end, I like to do a story. When we do stories, though, I don't want to sit there with a book with lots of words. You want to have as few words as possible, you want to have as many pictures as possible, or you want to scratch the whole idea of the book and just act out the story and bring props. So this is a silly story about a challah named Chani, who's on the shelf waiting to get picked up for Shabbos, and as she gets put in a cart by his brother and sister, she starts to get hungry and she eats things in the cart, and she changes all these various colors. She eats a carrot, she changes orange, and then she gets so upset because if a challah is orange, they're not going to take me home for Shabbat, and then I'm going to miss out on, and you see something about Shabbat, lighting the candles, and each challah is another Shabbat activity. It's really silly, but they're really young and it's really simple, and when you're done with each color, instead of putting it away, you give it to a child to hold. So now each child is a part of the story, and they're sitting there, these 2-year-olds or these 1.5-year-olds, they're waiting for their turn to hold the colorful challah, and it's such a silly thing and so simple, but they love it. And then of course Chani turns back into a brown challah at the end. When I do something like snack time, I don't want to just do snack time, I want to make it more than snack, I want to make it educational. I found these adorable little kiddish cups at Amazing Savings. So when we do snack with grape juice, every single child feels like they're making kiddush, and we say the bracha together, and we say it's time for kiddush. We don't say it's time to make a bracha on apple juice. We say let's have kiddush, and then maybe we'll wash and have challah instead of snack, because you know what? 2-year-olds love challah, and now we're doing something that mimics a seuda at home for kids who don't come from traditional families or whatever it is. They get a real educational experience, and there are a whole host of other songs you can sing, and things that I can't do here because we don't have time, but I'll just give you 2 other examples that I would like to talk about, which is you want to make Tat Shabbat, it's important to have the routine, but you also want to make it more than that, so that at various points throughout the year, use the Parsha or use the holidays that are coming up and incorporate it into Tat Shabbat. Someone before mentioned about a tent that they built for Avram and Sarah's tent. Do that when it comes to that Parsha, but make the entire Tat Shabbat room a tent. So you're buying these sheets or you're getting donations of old sheets, and you literally cover the ceiling and all the walls with this tent, and you daven in this tent. And maybe instead of having regular snack that week, everyone gets a little teacup. I bought these like tiny little porcelain teacups at Amazing Savings for so cheap. Everyone got a teacup, and we served tea, and we talked about how the story of Avraham and the Malachim, and we sat on the floor on carpets, and we tried to recreate what it might have looked like to have a tent in the desert and the 4 sides up, but they were in the tent. And we still did our Tat Shabbat program, only we did it in the tent. They loved that. Another thing we did was for Shavuos at Einstein. I brought 2 blue tablecloths, and I had the parents hold the tablecloths. And when it was time for the Torah dance, instead of the regular Torah dance, what we did was we had the blue tablecloths held together. All the children stood up, and then the parents pulled the tablecloths apart, and the kids walked through the Yom Suf. We did Kriyat Yom Suf with the parents pulling these tablecloths apart, and the kids are marching through Kriyat Yam Suf. We take them outside. Surrounding Einstein on the grounds outside are these beautiful rocks, big rocks all around. So we went outside, and the kids are going through the Yam Suf. They're coming to Har Sinai. We get to Har Sinai. Children, which one is Har Sinai? We walk around it and look at all the big rocks, and they're talking about, can that one be Har Sinai? No, it's too big. Can this one be Har Sinai? We sing the song about how Har Sinai was so little and so small. We find the rock that's Har Sinai. The kids take out petals, and they decorate Har Sinai, and we do our Torah dance right there at our mini Har Sinai. So we've taken the Shabbat experience, and we've brought them outside, and we've done something that's exciting for them. And they're two, but trust me, they're getting this. I've had parents call me up saying, my kid can't wait. My kid is singing Shabbat songs every single night of the week, and I keep explaining to her it's not Shabbat yet. So these are the basic things about Shabbat. I don't think I have time to go on to more at 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll stop and take questions. If you guys have questions, I'll try to answer them, and if not, I'll share some more information. So I'll open the floor. Yeah.
How is it with the lack of consistency of the leader? Like, do you find that because there's a different group leader each week that that's a little issue with the young children?
I do think it's ideal, if you can afford it, to have one teacher in the room leading it every week, or sometimes somebody who volunteers. I do think that's ideal because I'm a big fan of professionalism, and a teacher brings something that a parent might not be able to bring. That's not always a practicality for every school. Some schools can't afford it. You need to have the parents involved. If you need to go that route, which is what we needed to do at Einstein, and I thought it was a better model, then you need to make sure your training is good, and you need to make sure that you are super organized. So having this box where the parent doesn't have to look for what to do, it's all in here. Having a sitter where they're not wondering, what am I supposed to sing next? They just open it and flip. So even the parent who is not your best leader, they just have to follow that sitter. Now remember that the kids are the same kids, and the parents are the same parents, and you don't want it to be that the leader is leading everything. You want it to be a group experience. So if they're singing the same songs, and the other parents are there every week singing the same songs, and if the leader messes up and helps them, and you have the audio files that, and hopefully people are preparing, especially if they're only doing it once or twice a year, they can prepare for a little bit, then you're hoping that the quality of the group is so great, and the children have the consistency of the same props, the same people, the same songs. It shouldn't matter tremendously who's standing in front of the room, because it's not even
Everybody else is doing.
and they're sitting in the same circle, so it doesn't feel so different. Yes.
Is this something that could function on a bi-weekly basis, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We
Wouldn't
started
have to
it out at Einstein on a once-a-month basis because it was so new, the community was so small, and we didn't know how many people would come. I will tell you that this program took us 6 months to get off the ground at HIR until it was really successful. You have to be willing to push through with something like this. It's new, it's different, it's programming for 2-year-olds, it's educational programming for 2-year-olds, and you're forcing parents to come, and parents wake up late, and can they get there with their child? But if you push through, it starts to take off. So at Einstein, we did it once a month. We were getting, I think, in the beginning, 3 or 4 kids. We kept going with 3 or 4 kids. Eventually, that turned into 5 or 6. We said 6 kids. Okay, we'll do it every week. 6 kids turned into 12 kids, you know, and it went from there. But you start with what you can do.
Do you think that this kind of program can be run by by 8th and 9th graders, or not really? It should be really.
Well, I would have 2 questions for you. One is, are you having parents in the room?
Yeah, the fact is that because how small we are, parents are always in the room.
So if the parents are in the room, you would need to, my experience is, you would need to find an incredibly competent 8th grader. I've tried to reach out to the teen leaders and ask them to participate in leading a group. Not a single one of my teen leaders felt comfortable leading a group with 20 parents in the room or 12 parents in the room. They couldn't do it. They were scared, they were nervous, the parents would be critical. I think that if you found a talented 8th grader or 9th grader who really felt like they could do it and practiced with them for a week or 2 before, I don't want to say it can't happen. You need to have somebody who's really confident. You need to talk to the parents ahead of time to tell them, this is the reality of it. The kid is in 8th grade. You guys have to be supportive and helpful and not critical. I don't know any 8th grader that could do it, but if you know an 8th grader that has that personality.
That's the situation I have, is that I have a small room, and a lot of the parents come in,
socializing also, and bringing their kids in there, and the leaders are very, whatever the word is, very, they don't want the parents in there.
It's very
They
uncomfortable.
feel very
for them.
uncomfortable with the parents in there. So I pay more attention to it. Can I yell at this kid? Can I
Sure.
pay more attention to this kid? The parents is in there.
Okay, yeah,
Okay?
yes.
For now.